So family vlogs, van life vlogs, anything to do with children and content creation for the purposes of monetization, I think you're a pretty bad person, or dare yet I say, a bad parent. So with the rise of a lot of talentless people trying to become content creators, being unable to, so instead they force their kids to become the content for their creation. Yeah, with the rise of those type of people also comes the rise of their children growing up out of these situations, so being able to tell their own accounts and their own experiences during these van life and family vlog eras. A lot of the evidence that's coming out actually shows that these kids didn't really enjoy the content creation era, or they were actually forced, didn't really have a choice to participate. I think one of the biggest examples of this ideology in today's age that can be seen is Blu.Frenchi. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard about her, but she's the girl, she's the mama that actually ran a family YouTube channel that was supposed to actually teach parents how to discipline and parent their kids properly.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
But when a lot of the evidence actually came out that she was not only abusing her kids, but she would abuse them to the point of taping their feet together, chaining them to certain areas so they wouldn't be able to leave, and dare yet I say, take away their fucking food.
I'm only gonna say it one more time and then you're gonna lose the privilege to eat dinner.
Yeah, you didn't wash the dishes, little Timmy. You don't get to eat dinner tonight.
Now we're going to go to our GMA exclusive with the eldest daughter of mom influencer Blu.Frenchi, who pleaded guilty to child abuse last year. Sherry Frankie is now sharing her story in a new book, including allegations about her mom's relationship with her former mentor.
Now, of course, there's actually some ethical gray areas within this type of niche, because there are some kid channels that are purposely geared towards kids and technically are ran by the child, but at the same time, the parents are super guidance and direction. Like Ryan's World. Ryan's World is probably one of the biggest examples of child, I don't want to say child exploitation, but the parents are definitely pushing the kid to try to do this type of content creation, whether or not we actually know for sure that he wants to do it himself. There are many rules and regulations already put in place for the purpose of protecting children within this type of content creation niche, but the thing you have to understand about these rules and regulations is that if there's not a body or person or government agency to actually enforce these rules and regulations, then in all reality, these rules and regulations don't really matter. But with the upcoming 2025 year, California and a lot of other states are actually revising and rehashing out these bills and regulations to actually put a lot more strain and a lot more regulations in the bills themselves that protect and give a lot more power back to the child when it comes to these content creation families. Now, I'm pretty sure there's already a lot of bills and regulations already put in place to protect these kids in these type of content creation niches, but with the upcoming 2025 year, I found two specific bills that aren't only rehashed out for the upcoming 2025 year that go in effect for the upcoming 2025 year, but they give a lot of power back to the child if they choose so to do anything with that power. So for all of 2024 and before 2024, Senate Bill 764 actually states that preserving for the benefit of the minor 15% of the minor's gross income. So what that basically means that in all the content creation and all the monetary value that they actually accumulate during 2024 and before, children of these parents of these children are already supposed to be setting aside 15% of these kids' gross income for when they actually reach of age and they're able to make decisions for themselves. That's what they're already supposed to be doing 2024 and before. Now, the Senate Bill number 764 actually doesn't give any power back to the child per se, because any child under 18, all the decisions and everything that's actually made for sure, it has to be made by the parent because they're not of age and they're not legally able to make choices for themselves. But when they do finally come of age and they are able to make choices for themselves, this bill actually gives the power back to them once they turn of age, and they're actually able to ask for records and all the statements that they're supposed to be saving from the 15% gross income into making sure that everything that they're obtaining, everything that they're getting, all the 15% gross income that they're supposed to be receiving is actually correct. And they can't just fudge the numbers and say, hey, you want your money back? Here's a couple bucks. But one of the things that I can actually like within this bill is that not only does it gives the rules and regulations of how they're supposed to be doing it and what they're supposed to be doing it, but they even go so far into depth, into definition on everything that is considered a child content creator creator or anything that can be misconstrued, they don't allow that to happen. They give the definitions of age of majority means 18 years old. What does content mean? What does family mean? What does minor mean? Online platform, reporting period, vlog, vlogger, vlogging. There is absolutely no wiggle room or leeway into trying to misunderstand on what actually should be happening right now. This statement right here basically solidifies everything that I was just saying on how the child is given a lot more power back to when they're of age. A vlogger, all vloggers whose content features a minor engaged in the work of vlogging as described in subdivision A section 665 shall maintain and make available to the minor upon request all the following: document proof of the minor's age, the number of vlogs generated compensation, total number of vlog hours, total number of minutes each minor was included, and total compensation of generated vlogs, the amount of deposit for the reporting period in the trusted account for the benefit of the minor engaged in vlogging pursuant to section 665. So you can definitely see how they are making it so much more difficult on how you cannot misunderstand or you can't misconstrue or wiggle your way out of anything that you actually have to take care of to be a proper vlogging channel. And in all reality, does any of this matter? Does any of this power given back to the child matter if the child doesn't use it? No. Because that's what I was talking about earlier. If there's no body or regulation in place to force these regulations or rules, then in all reality, they don't really matter. But at least the California and a lot of other states are actually giving the child the opportunity, if they genuinely feel like they've been controlled and manipulated for the purposes of content creation, at least they give them the option back to combat that. And maybe not even combat that, but when it's time for them to acquire that 15% gross income at the time they're of age and able to make their own decisions, they're able to make sure all that gross income is actually correct and the parents are not be able to manipulate them. Now, Senate Bill number 764 is a great example of how California and a lot of other states are actually combating the actual gross income and what it means to be a content creator within that niche. That is what Senate Bill number 764 is actually combating. But jumping all the way to Assembly Bill number 1880, this bill not only combats a lot of the misconceptions on what a content creator in this family vlog it actually is, but it expands on it and specifies everything that can be considered content creation that involves any minors or children. This bill would specify include a content creator in the provisions and would define content creator as an individual who creates, posts, shares, and otherwise interacts with digital content in an online platform and engages in a direct contractual relationship with third parties as specified. Now, Assembly Bill number 1880 wasn't actually a standalone bill. Technically, it was an expansion off of a bill that was already in place called the Coogan Trust Account. Now, if you actually haven't heard about this bill or trust account, I'm honestly not surprised because technically Coogan was an actual person that got manipulated by their parents in taking all their fortune, and when it came up time for them to become 18, start making choices for themselves, all that gross income, all the income that they accumulated over a period of their time in content creation, being a child star, it was all gone, and he wasn't able to actually access anything that he ever earned over the 18 years of working in child stardom. Now, the Coogan Trust Account is technically a part of the Senate Bill 764 because the Coogan Trust Account is for the purposes of the preserving the benefit of the minor for the 15% of the minor's gross income. That is technically where the minor's income is supposed to go because the parents aren't able to actually reach into that account or do anything with it until they're 18. Now, one of the things that I actually really appreciate about how all these Senate bills and the Assembly bills and all the regulations are actually being constructed is that they're being connected. There's absolutely no way you can actually misconstrue on what you have to do, on what bill might conflict with another one. No, each bill is actually connected. So technically, it's step by step on what you actually need to do, become a proper content creation in a family vlog or anything that has to do with children in content creation for monetization. By putting the Coogan Trust Account in Assembly Bill number 1880, that's for the purposes of Senate Bill 764. By connecting the two bills, it not only demonstrates what you're supposed to do to be able to be one of these family life vloggers, one of these family life channels.
If you cut one more thing in my house, we're chopping its head off. I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Grandma will be so
But it also shows you by connecting to the bills who this applies to. So whenever it comes time to the child be able to prove the 15% gross income is right by asking for documents and records, by connecting these two bills, you're not able to deny or justify that the person that you're actually talking to and the person that's asking for these records is not a content creator. This protects all content creators and whatever they're categorized as in either entertainment or television. Now, when I was actually reading more upon this bill, I was actually super happy because I personally don't even like any of these. I don't like any children in content creation. I'm not saying that I'm jealous or I don't want any children to explore any type of content creation, but that's what they are. They're children. You can't honestly expect a child to try and understand that the consequences with putting out type of content like that stays on the internet forever. If you embarrass yourself, if you make a mistake, if you humiliate somebody, that type of consequence is so far away from the child's understanding that I don't think they should be allowed to be able to have these accesses to these detrimental situations if they put themselves into it. Because I'm pretty sure you can see in a lot of TikToks and a lot of family life is that not only do they not have any privacy, but the parents themselves, they don't give any privacy to the children themselves because the children are the content. If the children misbehave, it's content. When the children's going to school, it's content. When the children are traveling, it's content. So you have to understand when your life is literally video 24/7, I don't think there's a lot of growing and there's just more animosity and a lot more hatred for everything that you're doing instead of actually trying to enjoy it. One of the biggest things that honestly surprised me about specifically Assembly Bill number 1880 when I was doing a little more research upon it is that it was basically pushed by two different people. Governor Gavin Newsom and surprisingly Demi Lovato. Yeah, so basically she's coming out with a documentary series about her being a child star on how it wasn't really the best choices for her, or maybe she was forced into it. Personally, I haven't read up on the actual documentary, but it's for the purposes of actually showing and demonstrating child exploitation when it comes to actual content creation, whether it be YouTube, TV, or Hollywood. At least she's trying to tackle and put a lot of effort into actually demonstrating and showing to a lot of people that they can't even see this type of area of life. At least she's giving them a little bit of demonstration on how these children, they don't really get a lot of choices in the matter, and not even choices, they're not able to demonstrate how they actually feel about being put in these situations. Because I mean, as you can see from a lot of family life vlogs, what they're posting is the happy times. They're not posting children fighting or arguments or anything like that. They're not posting any of the disagreements. They're just showing everybody how everything in life is hunky handy dory, and the kids are basically forced to do anything the parents want to do. But at least with the more regulations and the more rules, and at least people of power putting a lot of presentation, a lot of representation in these, I guess, hideaway niches in the stuff that you can't really see behind doors, at least she's giving that a lot more attention into something that honestly, if nobody was actually paying attention to, then nobody would really care until the child came forward and told their story on how life was so detrimental up until this point where I actually run away and do everything on my own, and I'm probably never gonna talk to my parents again. Because honestly, the more I think about it, if I was thrusted into any type of van life or anything like a situation, not only would I eventually hate my parents to the point of I wouldn't really talk to them again when I turned 18, but I honestly feel like I would be missing out on a lot of life skills, like having a basic education and being able to be a social person without hating everybody and hating life. But with that being said, I think I'm gonna end the video here. I think one of the characteristics that I can actually pull from these two bills, the Assembly Bill and the Senate Bill, that I actually like and appreciate is the fact that these two bills are actually connected. I guess if you were to actually separate these bills by taking the Coogan Trust account out of 1880 and putting it in 764, I feel like if I was a family vlog channel that was trying to manipulate the bills so I wouldn't have to follow certain rules, then I would be able to do it more likely because they're separated and you can misconstrue some ideas from 1880 that might conflict with 764. But since these two are actually connected, it's not more of rules and regulations, it's more of steps and things you actually have to do to be one of these authentic, that's up to regulation, family vloggers or family live channels. But either way, stop. You shouldn't be doing this in the first place. You shouldn't be forcing your kids to do anything of content creation because kids don't understand the consequences of content creation. You do something bad, you embarrass yourself, you humiliate yourself, or you do something bad to somebody else, that doesn't go away. People don't forget that, and there's a lot of backlash because people hold a lot of hate. They hold a lot of hate because people are just mad nowadays. So what I say, let kids be kids. Let kids explore the things that they want to do. If they want to become a content creator, then help them become a content creator. Don't control their content creation, but guide them, direct them, tell them what's right and wrong. Tell them what's acceptable and not acceptable, because that's what everybody wants to do nowadays. Everybody wants to be a content creator, and that's completely okay. If you're great, if you have skills, if you have dreams and ideas, go for them. Pursue them. That's the whole goal in life. But kids, they don't have dreams. They have urges and impulses that you have to control as a parent. And if you don't control them, then you're just as bad. And honestly, you were probably a child that never grew up and never matured, and you probably have impulse control, terrible impulse control, just like your child has, and you should feel bad. You shouldn't be a parent. No, you shouldn't be. You just shouldn't be a parent. But if you're actually curious about somebody else that doesn't care about anybody but themselves, then I actually just did a video on the American foreigner, Sally, I think was her name, that went to Australia, and sometime during the middle of the night when she was driving to a place, she saw a baby wombat and a wombat's mother on the side of the road, and guess what she did? She picked up the fucking wombat, ran back to her boyfriend while the wombat's baby with legs were flailing in the air, and the wombat's mother was screaming for the baby while the baby was screaming for its mother.
I got a baby wombat.
Honestly, it's a terrible, horrible situation, and the more I read about it, the more irritated I got. And we don't only get into the fact that she did something so terrible, but we also get into her responses on how everybody's sending her death threats. And not only that, but the Prime Minister of Australia even gave a response to her terrible actions, and how, honestly, if you can do that to a baby wombat, a defenseless animal, why don't you try that with the crocodile?
Maybe she might try some other Australian animals. Take a baby crocodile from its mother and see how you go there.
Yeah, no, he said that. It's honestly a good video, and it made me mad. It made me mad, but at the same time, people are stupid nowadays, so I can't really blame her. But as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. See you later.